I never knew nothing about human trafficking. I never knew that I was being exploited. I didn't wake up and be like, oh, this is what's happening to me. It's something that I thought was normal.
80,000 reported missing people on any given day in the United States. At the same time, there are over 10,000 unidentified bodies. There is no national law requiring agencies to share this information, leaving many families in the dark about their loved one's fate.
Today, family and volunteers, they reported cadaver dogs detected a few locations where human remains might have been buried.
You could have a body that was on one side of a county line, and the next county could have had that individual reported as missing. And no one may have talked to each other.
And we just haven't forgotten, and we're not going to stop until we know what happened.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Gone Missing Pod. My name is Nicole Mancha Mercado, and I am joined by the lovely Alyssa Gutierrez.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
Oh, just fantastic. I'm tan. I'm sandy.
Amazing.
I've been at the beach. I mean, nothing can go wrong in my life at this point.
Well, I'm so glad. The dogs disagree with you on this day. They both had a vet appointment today, so they were quite upset
Sad.
All day. Yeah. And of course, like Pepper had to go in for a second test. So she got brought back again. She's like, what's going on? Why are they grabbing me again?
Yeah, exactly. Wait a minute. We're supposed to be done with this nonsense.
Well, okay. So funny story, community. When we got Pepper, we had taken her to the vet for her intro stuff. But then later in the summer, we went for the 6-month checkup or whatever. And they did more tests because obviously they run more the second time around. Alyssa and I are 4 mimosas in. It's 11 a.m. and the vet calls me to tell me that the dog has Lyme disease. I am freaking out, but also too drunk to coherently be like, what does that mean for my animal? So then I'm trying to sober up for the vet to call me back in an hour. Turns out everything was fine. That's the only reason it's a funny story. But I was telling the people at the vet office this story because I was when they called me about it, because that's why she had to go back for a second test, was because she has Lyme disease. And it's dormant in her system. So she's fine. But they always have to do just one extra test to make sure that everything is good with her. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I'm telling them and they were laughing. They were so you were a little bit tipsy. I'm oh yes, I was quite tipsy as I am trying to understand what the vet is telling me about my dog with my friend on this girls trip, trying to text my husband at the same time.
Must be the best way to get troublesome news.
I know. I was and thank God everything was fine. But I was yeah, it was just kind of a shit show because it was literally the first morning of our vacation. And this is how it starts.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. So yeah, it was interesting. But anyways, they are fine. They were upset with me all day, which is also fine. I don't care. Let them be upset because it's for their own good. So
stay mad.
Mm-hmm. Stay mad, big mad, you be fine. But anyways, so yeah, that's how my day went. This is how my summer vacation is going so far. We have vet appointments and other appointments I've had to put off because of school and work and all of those fun things.
So it sounds like you're living regular adult life and I'm just over here living beach life.
Yeah, basically. I'm hoping though, after I finish out all my appointments that it slows down a little bit because I'm just trying to get everything done in the beginning of summer so I don't have to do it. You know what I mean? Kind of spread out through the summer.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
For sure.
That's the goal.
Big goals.
Exactly. So thank you for joining me. And as I pulled you away from the beach today to be able to do this case, dragging Alyssa away from the beach is truly taking a mermaid out of water. She's very unhappy about it, grows legs and gets upset that she can't go back in.
100%. For sure. Yes. To be honest, for a split second, I thought you were going to say taking a toy away from a toddler or something else. I was still going to agree with you. Yes, 100%. Mm-hmm, that is how it is.
All right, Alyssa. So we are going to talk about a case today that is very, very bizarre, also very sad, and just not one that we cover that often. I wanted to kind of talk about it because when I was reading the article, they said that this happens more than people like to admit.
Oh no.
So Tavish Sutton was admitted as a patient in Hughes Spalding Pediatric of Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia on Butler Street on March 6, 1993. At the time, he was in the custody of the Department of Family and Child Services, which is called DCS there. Tavish was about a month old.
So little.
He was a little itty bitty baby. So when he went to the hospital on that weekend, he had been taken from his mother's custody about 3 weeks prior when he was a week old because a family member actually called DCS reporting the mom saying she was concerned for his well-being. His mother did not really want to give him up willingly, and then they had to put a protective custody order on Tavish.
Meaning she couldn't come near him?
Correct.
But no information on
like this is a longer term issue and I'm not really sure what it is, so I'm not going to speculate that.
Yeah.
So Tavish underwent a minor surgery over that weekend and was recuperating in what's called a semi-private room. So for those of you who don't know what a semi-private room is, typically you have private room where you're by yourself, semi-private. There's usually only one other person in there. And he was in the room with another infant. However, the other infant's family was there. His mother and sister were there.
See, that's so odd to me. I have literally never heard of unaccompanied, unsupervised infants being in a room.
Now,
he should have been in the NICU. He should have been in the nursery.
So this is also 1993 in Georgia. I don't know what, you know what I mean? Like I have truly no idea how this works or why, or maybe because of the surgery, he had to be separated. I'm not sure, but nurses were on a 15-minute roundabout care, which means they would every 15 minutes come and check on him. And again, there was a mother and sister, literally, they were in the room by him.
Yeah, but not his mother, his sister.
I know. So in the early morning hours of March 9th, the baby's mother, so his roommate's mother and sister were spending the night in the room. They had fallen asleep. The nurse checked in. They saw them sleeping. Tavish was sleeping. The other baby was sleeping. Everyone's asleep. And that was at 6:45 a.m. A nurse then went in the room at 7 a.m., 15 minutes later, and Tavish was gone.
But what about everybody else?
They were still sleeping.
Oh God, no, this is ghost story type shit.
So Tavish was in the room. 15 minutes later, he is gone. He has disappeared from the hospital room. The mother and sister were asleep on the couch. The other infant was asleep. Nothing. And here's the thing. Normally I'd be like, well, that's weird when we hear these stories about like people coming in a room to like grab a child. I'm like, but that would be expected that people would be coming in and out, especially if it's a hospital room.
Especially if their rotation is every 15 minutes, which not to like discredit anybody, but you just know in a hospital setting, situations arrive and 15 minutes can easily turn into longer. Not that happened. I'm just saying like
it could happen. Yes.
People can come whenever. You never know when to expect them almost.
And that's why I don't like fault the mother and the sister that were in the room for the roommate, because they are probably so used to people being in and out at this point. Like, why would they even notice? You know what I'm saying?
Right. They're like, trying to sleep through it so they can get some rest.
Exactly. So I don't want to fault them, but it's such a bizarre situation. You know what I mean? This happens. The nurse is like, I think she's trying not to freak out. She goes to check with the rest of the staff. Like, did someone take him from the room? Did he need to get tested? All of these things. And realized soon after that none of the staff knew where Tavish was. So they immediately, as soon as they realize this, they alert law enforcement. And a search is like commencing. And they also had to tell his foster parents because he was with them at the time, or he was under their care at the time.
Right.
I don't know why they weren't there. It does not say. So, I don't know if the rules were different because it was through DCS. I have no idea. They were devastated at this. Tavish's roommate's family was investigated thoroughly by the police because obviously if they're like, okay, a staff member didn't take him, his mother, they went to go check on, and we'll get into a little bit more like why she wasn't the one who took him, but they definitely searched the family because they're like, okay, well, the mom and sister were here. So like, clearly they're the ones who have the most access. However, They were interviewed, they were investigated, and eventually cleared. Tavish's mother, it was found out, had been in a mental institution at the time, and she was being treated for schizophrenia while he was abducted. So neither she nor relatives were even considered suspects in the disappearance because most of his birth family didn't even know he was in the hospital at the time of his abduction. So it seems like at this time, due to the protective custody, they were kind of keeping all information away from the family.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So there were two persons of interest in his disappearance. One was a, quote, agitated man who tried to enter the hospital's pediatric wing after 8:30 the night before Tavish was seen last. Visitors are not allowed to go into the children's wing until like after 8:30, and they have to carry passes. He didn't have a pass, so there was literally no reason for him to be there. He was described as tall and thin, wearing a baseball cap, and disappeared before they could call security. But nobody remembers seeing him the day of, just the night before. The second person, however, was a woman around 25 years old, described as being 5'5" and 160 pounds, with medium brown complexion, strong cheekbones, and almond-shaped eyes. She had black pants on, a long black coat, and large earrings, and her hair was pulled back with a large bow. She was carrying an infant with curly hair. A man saw her outside the hospital and said he noticed her because he found her attractive. Another witness saw the same woman inside the hospital. And the assumption from law enforcement at the time was that this woman had maybe convinced a partner that she was pregnant and she needed a baby to prove that she was pregnant.
I mean, just that statement I wasn't expecting. It kind of seems far-fetched. I believe you, but just following the story, I was like, wait, that's out of left field.
Well, and I think that's a very 1993, the woman must have convinced a man. I think it is more likely that it was a woman who wanted a baby.
Yeah, probably.
And the reason I wanted to bring up this case is because it is a very bizarre case. We have so little information. None of his family knew that he was like even at the hospital. There was no one there taking care of him. This woman was noticed carrying out a baby, but there's no, like, I think the fact that she seemed to be kind of, getting out as quickly as she could was what also like brought some attention to her.
Well, yeah, because usually if you have a child, one, they don't let you walk out. They wheelchair you out. That's been in effect for a long time. Very rarely do you actually walk out of the hospital with a baby in your arms. And then the baby always has to be in a car seat before they let you take it home, especially if it's a newborn. I get it. He was a month old, but still, he's still newborn size, depending on.
Right.
So I get why that caught people's attention.
Yes. So then another strange thing happens. His biological mother sued the hospital over the kidnapping, and the suit was settled out of court for $600,000.
Oh my gosh.
So she got $600,000 because her son was kidnapped in their hospital, essentially.
Yeah.
And
100% he was.
Yeah, he was. Exactly. So the reason that this case really it's eerie to me is because they always thought that like after this point that it was a woman who wanted to raise a child, right? Like she wanted a kid and she couldn't have her own for whatever reason and took him. So they still speculate that Tavish is alive and just unaware of who he actually is.
Wow. So maybe it's just my brain, but I don't know. Well, I guess that wouldn't work out if I guess my like weird brain was like, do you think a family member was in cahoots with the mom to steal the child and then obviously win a settlement? But I get it. She was receiving mental health treatment. So that's very unlikely.
Yes. And the thing is like, they seem to have enough information, whether it's correct or not, I don't know, but they do speculate that the woman who took him lived between 4 and 24 miles from the hospital, but there's really no evidence supporting any theory. And while they've had some tips, everything pretty much went cold. And it's bizarre to think Tavish today would be 29 years old and could have no idea who he actually is.
Wow. That's crazy.
And we've seen this happen before, right? Like there was that young girl, I don't remember how many years ago it was now, but she had been taken from her birth mother at the hospital and ended up finding out because she needed her birth certificate for something. Come to find out that she had been stolen. Yeah. I don't think this is the first or last time that this has happened. I think it was definitely easier at this time because, again, like we've said before, anything before 9/11, like there weren't as many security cameras, there weren't as many security precautions in a lot of places. And so it's not shocking to me that it's possible that this happened and he literally was taken out and has no clue about any of this.
Oh my goodness. This is one that's, this case makes my brain spin a bit.
Yeah.
The possibilities, theories, suspicions.
There's so little information about that we're not sure what that condition is or if they would have been able to get treatment for it elsewhere. Because I also think that at this point, I don't know how much traveled from, let's say that they're in Atlanta, but then they moved to a different state. Like Atlanta, Georgia, and they moved to a different state. Like they moved to South Carolina. Would they have checked over border? Like, you know what I mean? Over state like lines? I don't know. So they probably could have gotten something like that treated simply at another place.
True. And this was pre 9/11. Right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So different time.
So Tavish had black hair and brown eyes and then a 1/4-inch surgical incision on his left buttock at the time of his disappearance. I don't know if it left a scar. They obviously have no idea if it would have left a scar because he disappeared right after his surgery. It's just such a strange case because we've done a lot of cases with parent abduction. Like there's disagreement on who should have the children, or there's one parent who has been decided as the legal guardian, or, the other parent has no custody or very limited custody, and then they take the kids and run to another country. This is different because and to me, it's like, I wonder how familiar they were with like the hospital system because they had to have known it was every 15 minutes. So had they been scoping him out?
Possibly. Yeah, for sure. Especially if she lives so close, you never know. She could have been there more often.
Well, and
somebody noticed.
And I always think about that other case, and I believe that woman actually worked at the hospital or volunteered at the hospital.
Oh,
so maybe she was a volunteer, or she had previously worked there, or she knew the system that they had. It also could have been a crime of circumstance. Like she just happened to walk past the room and he was alone and they were sleeping and they were like, well, nobody's going to notice me. But to me, it feels like
I think it's premeditated at least,
Oh yeah. I think it was probably premeditated. I do think that they were probably scoping him out and realized he was the only one without any sort of accompanying adult with him.
Right.
And it made him very vulnerable. And that really upsets me as well in a lot of ways because it's he is vulnerable. He had nobody to stand up for him or to protect him. And the thing is, even if let's say that they took him and he has a wonderful life, it's not fair to not provide him with the details and information of his life.
Oh yeah, 100%. He deserves to know just for his own identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This case is really sad. And it's also really frustrating because it feels like there was a lot of beginnings of leads and then everything kind of went to nothing. They were never able to locate anything more about him or the situation. There were a couple of sketches on the Charlie Project website, which I think they're supposed to be helpful. They look kind of vague to me. I don't know if I would know how somebody looked from them. Does that make sense? They're kind of vague features, but they said that they were quote unquote witnesses, although I think they were probably trying to be based off of the woman that they saw leaving the hospital.
Yeah.
This case was it was really sad to me and heartbreaking to know. And then also I know his mom didn't have custody of him, but clearly she had some of her own mental health demons, which is also extraordinarily sad because she also doesn't know what happened. His siblings don't know what happened. The rest of the family doesn't know what happened to him. He doesn't know what happened.
Right. And the fact that she didn't give him up willingly, he was obviously a wanted, loved child. And that she was getting herself help. I get it. They took her child, so she should have been able to put trust and faith that he would be there when she did the work to get clean, to be his mom.
And even so, like the foster family that he was with seemed to really love him because they were devastated at this news. So there were people who were actively trying to take care of him. And that's what I think is so sad and frustrating about this case. I want to thank the Charlie Project, Georgia Cold Case, and Reddit for the information that I was able to find. And I might get these numbers a little bit wrong, but I think that they were saying that most infants that are taken, like 75% of those infants are returned within the first 2 days. Of the 25%, 95% are then returned within like a week. So once it hit the 8-day mark, that's when law enforcement really started panicking because they realized, oh, we don't know if he's being returned.
So I mean, it's sad, but it's also more mysterious.
Yes.
You know, he could be living a well fulfilled life.
Mm-hmm.
It's really only the people that lost him that are hurting.
Exactly. I wanted to give out the phone numbers for the investigating agencies. So it's both the Atlanta Police Department as well as the FBI. The Atlanta Police Department's phone number, if you have any information, is 404-853-3400. The number for the FBI is, I'm assuming, the Atlanta office, and that's 202-324-3000. If you have any information at all about Tavish Sutton and where he went missing, or any information about the woman who may have taken him, those are the best numbers to call so that his siblings, his mother, and any family members who may still be looking for him can have the information to find him. Thank you so much, Alyssa, for joining me and talking about Tavish's case. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicole, for bringing his case up and just for being, so fantastic.
Thanks. And thank you to our wonderful editor and producer, Mike Mercado, as well as the Mercado Airwaves network that hosts us each and every week. We also want to thank our community. We're grateful for you. We're so appreciative. I can't say it enough, so I'll just stop while I'm ahead. But we do love you guys, and the support is so needed in this community for the victims and their families. If you want to look at any of our past cases, you can go to Facebook and Instagram at The Gone Missing Pod, and Twitter and Instagram at The Gone Missing Pod, and the Facebook is The Gone Missing Podcast. You can also become a patron and go to patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves Network and then look for The Gone Missing Pod. Thank you guys so much, and we will check back in with you next week. Bye.